Hello, everybody. It's 10:08 p.m. Central Time on the 5th of February, 2023. It's Sunday here in the United States, Monday already internationally, and this is my second update on the large earthquake that struck over in Turkey. And I've got some news for you guys. The mainstream media is kind of, I think, lagging behind on the casualty and injury reports. Mainstream media reporting first anywhere from possibly up to 10,000 people fatalities, and that number has been adjusted to 10. Now, I can tell you right now, I've already scrolled through social media, and pictures alone that I've seen, which we're going to go through in a second, show us more than that just in a few pictures. So I think the mainstream media is lagging behind on the reporting on the quake fatalities. But for instance, in the area, there's some spots that actually have some snow. But what I want you to see is more like this. So this isn't going to show any bodies or anything. It just shows the examples. Oh, wait, we got audio on that. It shows examples of the kinds of collapses that have happened across a pretty large area of at least 100 miles in all directions from the earthquake epicenter, and it's pretty serious. We've got several collapsed large apartment buildings that are multiple stories tall, many of them. I don't know how many, but it was the middle of the night. So, middle of the night, I don't know whether it was 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning. Anyway, it's the middle of the night, and we get our big quake there, and if we get sandwiched buildings, all the stone stack structures likely have some damage in them. But you get stuff like this, where people are just now videos coming out showing people some survivors being pulled from rubble, others not obviously surviving. It's pretty bad. It's more than 10 people, I guarantee that. Now, there's also footage coming out of pipelines that have ruptured, natural gas pipelines. Turkey's known for this, oil and natural gas, and the multiple breaks due to the earthquake. So we've got a big situation in Turkey. This is just what's on social media. I could hit latest. We're over here on Twitter, and I just have to be careful what I scroll through because, again, it's troubling footage, guys, and I'm not trying to inundate you with really terrible footage. I just want to just drive home the point that the earthquake damage that happens in stone stack structures is phenomenal when we get up into that 7.8 level, almost near 8.0. It's almost near megaquake level, and it can devastate an area many hundreds of miles across. And well, here, look at this. I mean, okay, look, Apple News is covering it, but you can see we have a sandwiched building, and there's people on 3rd and 4th story. This is already sandwiched a layer or two, so you get the idea of what we're dealing with here. It's a big deal. It's bad. And I'm not trying to over-exaggerate that. That is for real. It's a serious, serious situation going on here. And that being said, our large earthquake is a 7.8 plus subsequent 6.3 and 6.7, striking 50 miles and 60 miles over to the west. Let me show you everything that's struck in here. We're going to get our rings out of here just because they're kind of getting in the way of seeing all the movement that's going on here. Now, do you see the path of earthquakes that's here? This is reported from the Europeans. Here's everything since our big one. And they're making like a bending shape. You see, if you just played connect the dots with that, it would somewhat mimic our red line that's here. Now, the red line is the plate boundary. And let me just open up a USGS reported quake here. We'll go over and look at the USGS plate boundary map. You'll understand in a second why there's a line of earthquakes shaped that way. You see it? Here's the line on the USGS map. Here's, according to the Europeans and the USGS together, the Europeans are reporting a few earthquakes. The USGS isn't, just because of the 4.0 threshold and so forth, with the USGS sometimes reporting under 4.5, other times not. But you can see it, right? Okay, so the spacing on the quakes and the trajectory or the path of the quakes, let's go back and compare here. It's basically making a connecting point between the two plate boundaries, between Iran going over into the Mideast and North Africa. This is the plate boundary for North Africa here. Goes up and meets up over into the east, obviously. And we have 60 miles that broke here right at the pinnacle tip of the plate boundary first. Then these So we're breaking back behind it, and we're breaking out down in front of it, or into the middle of it, the plate boundary. Now you'll notice the USGS has no red line that connects across here. They say there is no plate boundary that connects across there. But I'm going to take you over and show you on topography on good old Google Earth, and we'll look in and see what actually connects across Turkey right there. All right, so here's Turkey, and our earthquake striking down here in South Turkey, right along the border with Syria. So right in here is where the earthquake struck, and the nearest city is this. Look at this city. And we can do a street level on it just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. These are stone stack buildings that are, a lot of them are made out of cinder block stack. And look at the street levels on this. They've gone through almost every street in the town. It's kind of crazy. But just going around, take a look at it. When I say cinder block stack, I'm not joking. Take a look at it. Brick and cinder. Brick and cinder. Look how high that goes. How many stories is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5-story tall cinder block, small cinder block, no less, stack. And that's just, you just go down the street, and that's what they're all made out of. Now, I'm not saying everyone's going to collapse. I'm just saying that these are prone for collapsing, especially when you got stuff. Look at the top layer up there. Okay, it's not even mortared. Or if it is, it's just at the joints. That's going to break pretty easy when an earthquake of 7.0 magnitude strikes 20 miles away from you, for instance. That's the nearest town right here, Gaziantep, and the earthquake struck right next to it. Now, the breaking that's going across is going in a line up to the north by northwest, and look. Oh, I'll be darned, look at that. The mountains go that same direction. I could turn off all the borders and labels, if that'll help you see it a little better. It goes right up and bends back around. We're going to go back over to the USGS map. They don't have anything there. But the earthquakes are going along it, obviously. We're breaking all the way back here. We're breaking out down in front of it, going further south, right up to the Syria border. Series of small earthquakes has also struck down south, going further south into Lebanon now, near 3.0. New 5 struck over to the west, over at central Turkey as well. This has all happened since our big one. So let me turn down the rings now. There's our big one. Our other 4s and 5s back behind it, in a line going over to the east, going down to the south, going and reaching now, 3 down to the south, going against the flow. The flow normally goes to the west. And what's happened over to the west? A 5 and a 4.7. Some 2s and 3s breaking out on the edge of the craton already. Going around the outside edge of Europe already, just in the first few hours since our big break. So, what's happened since I've done my update? I did an update about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. This earthquake struck on our arrow, and this earthquake struck. These series of earthquakes struck on our arrow. Both took place in the last hour and a half. That something's flowing in now already. But what's flowing in and where's it flowing from? Well, of course, we're flowing from this point where the break took place on the plate boundary. And it goes over to the west following the U shape, or the W shape, right into Italy. And the USGS doesn't have anything on their map here that doesn't show the craton at all. But we have it here. And all 3 spots started moving with the same size quakes since the big one. Just 2s right now. But something is flowing across now. A reverberation, if you will, that's going through the plate boundary and up into Italy, up into Albania, and up into Romania. That's just the start of it. We're on just a few hours in on a 7-day watch now. We're going to have to watch downstream from this big quake. When I say downstream, I mean just following the arrows. Where do they point to? And once we get to here, it's like a river. So just imagine this like a flood, equal to a 7.0. And it's coming up and going out and spreading out in 3 ways. From that point, we're going to get 3 different 6s that break out across Europe in the next several days. Should strike Italy. Also down here at Bosnia, going down to Albania. And up here on the edge, right next to our 2.9 inch swarm that just broke out, or a little outbreak that's taking place there, at Romania, going into Ukraine. That should happen in the next few days. Now, as I'm talking here, a new 5.2 has just been reported in here on top of all the others. Let's go take a look and see where it struck. Let's see. Let's get all the smaller earthquakes out of there. There we go. New 5.2 now has struck directly on the arrow on the plate boundary, back down to the east-southeast on top of the other 5.2, 5.5, 7.8, 5.2, 6.3, 6.7, 5.6. It's just a boatload of noteworthy activity taking place here now on the plate boundary. It looks like it's all breaking apart, going from here where the big quake is, going all the way over to the east I want to measure and see how far that is. So let's get the coordinates, put them in on Google Earth, and measure back over to that city. And just get a rough measurement. It doesn't have to be exact down to the mile. I just want to know how far apart are we breaking. Here's the new 5.2 location that just struck. And then we'll get out our line measurement tool. Look at that topography. If I could ever get over there, I'd love to go just kick around a few rocks over there. Wow, that's really cool looking. Okay, now, this is pretty far. Now, hang on. We're talking pretty far. Let me turn on my borders and labels, place marks. So, I don't think arc-second measurements are going to help us here. I think we're going to need to do this in miles. 164 miles to the east. So we're talking about a displacement now that's happening 164 miles out from the earthquake epicenter in the past few hours. We can also probably trace that back up this far, up to the north by northeast, where the other quakes are. Then we're 160 miles to the east. We're probably 100 miles to the north by northeast. And we're about 50 miles to the west. That whole area there, let's go back to the USGS map now. Here is breaking right now. Now, we should see a flow go out over to the west, and when we see that happen, this should hopefully start to die down. But as one area dies down, as a big flood gets deposited into a river, it goes downstream, and it floods elsewhere. Now, the good news is it should spread out across Europe. I don't know if that's good or not. 6 is going across Europe. I mean, it's going to be a busy few days in the next several days going across Europe, and that's why I have to warn my Italian viewers. Now, look, this is right on your doorstep. Albania, also you guys, Central Europe. Just be on watch over the next several days. Central Italy is where we're going to watch, next to Norcia in the Adriatic Sea. That's the first spot. Second spot, like I said, Albania, Bosnia. Third spot, over on the edge of the craton. All three should get hit. Okay. And where did this come from? Well, if you're a new viewer, you don't know this, so I do have to bring this up. 15 days ago, I issued a 14-day watch. So last night, my 14-day watch expired. What did I issue the watch for? A 7.8. 7.8 earthquake. Well, a 7.8 has now hit all the way over on the other side of the planet where I issued the warning from. So it's a miss for me on the location by 10,000 miles. It's way off, not just a little. I'm looking here for a 7.8. Why was I looking for a 7.8? 15 days ago, 2 weeks ago, a deep earthquake, a deep 6.8, struck down below Argentina, prompted me to get on and issue this warning over on YouTube, which I could probably even take you over to my YouTube page and we could just see it on my page. I'm not trying to self-promote or anything. Just want to show you where I talked about it. Here we are, 2 weeks ago on the 20th. So, 2 weeks ago, 15 days ago, I issued the warning for a 7.8 based upon the deep 6.8 down below Argentina. And I said we were going to watch up here on the north side, up by Colombia, where all the arrows point to, where our big arrow points to, all pointed to right here, and we had a big deep earthquake down below South America. 14-day watch. 14 days came and went last night, this morning. This morning I got on, made a video, which is over on my YouTube channel. 12 hours ago, here it is. And in that video, I kind of beat myself up about it. I talked about I wasn't going to issue a new forecast for the planet until I figured out where the 7.8 went. Then, 5 hours later, this 7.8 hits on the other side of the planet from where I'm looking. So if I'm looking here off the coast of Colombia and it hits all the way on the other side of the planet, I have to figure out why. I don't have an answer for that yet. Today is day 1, not even just a few hours in on this quake hitting. But I need to figure out why it transited that distance and came up this far away from where our original deep earthquake struck. I will get an answer. I'll figure it out. But right now, all I can tell you, my warning for 7.8 expired this morning, last night, 14 days going into 15. When I got on this morning, I said, look, we'll give it another day, blah, blah, blah. We talked about it. That was 12 hours ago. Then this hit. Not bragging, just have to tell you, because it's not a brag point. If I'm warning Columbia and it hits that far away, I'm not trying to do planetary warnings. I'm just going to, 7.8 is going to hit the planet. That's not going to help anybody. So I need to figure out why. Now, as I'm looking at this over the past hour and a half, 2 hours, I noticed a few things. Our big arrow that points right to where we were watching. And if we follow that arrow out, and this is with the curvature of the Earth, of course, or without the curvature of the Earth, it brings us out and across to here. So it brings us south of the big quake. Let me show you what's there that leads over to. It brings us to this. The Saudi Arabian plate. You see that? It's a separate plate on its own. Saudi Arabia going into Iran. So that big arrow that I just showed you all the way over here points across, goes across, and goes across. And if this is like momentum, where we're looking for a big push to come up from down below South America, and the trajectory of the greater big arrow that points to South America just so happens to point halfway around the planet to the other side of the planet where we just got our big 7.8, I have to wonder, did the wave travel all the way over and come up down below Europe? It would be the first time I've ever seen it. I've been doing this for 12 years, been watching deep earthquakes almost every single day, and their effects for shallower, larger earthquake effect. This would be the first time that I've seen the expected magnitude come up on the last day of the watch, day 14, day 15, and it's a world away. It's so odd. It's the oddest thing that I've, I think, seen happen seismically since I've been doing the reporting. So getting to it, now the number of fatalities on this, again, that number is going to vary and fluctuate. I'm thinking it's probably in the hundreds, if not thousands. I'm going to probably lean towards 1,000. I wouldn't think 10,000 just by looking at the newer construction. Thank goodness the newer construction appears to be standing. So the newer construction seems to be faring much better than the old cinder block stack, but cinder block stack's going through all those suburbs. It is what it is. Now, do you have an earthquake plan? I'm just going to stop right here and tell you, you need to have an earthquake plan. The spread is going to, if you're in Europe, you need to pay attention. You need to develop an emergency kit. You need to have it into a bag that's easy to grab, and you keep it by your door or someplace easily accessible in case you have to leave. Otherwise, you shelter in place. Now, I know those stone stack structures. In Europe, you've got them too. So, I mean, we're not just talking about Turkey. Italy, South Central Europe, stone stack buildings. It's probably the worst thing to build with. So cinder block, brick, those kind of buildings, when you get above 6.0, even above 5.0, you can start seeing some pretty serious collapsing happen in some buildings. But when you get into the 7.0 range, like what we're dealing with in Turkey, you're just not going to do well at all. So I would urge you to look at the building that you're in if you're in Central Europe or in Italy. Really look at it. Go out and take a look or all the way around it. Check the supporting beams down everywhere. And make sure that if you are in a stone stack building, that you have the ability to get out quick. Multi-story building, there's no way. 5-story building? Would you be able to get out of a 5-story building in 30 seconds? I don't think so. 30 to 60 seconds, you're on the top floor, it's the middle of the night, and you're asleep in bed. You don't know an earthquake's hitting until things are shaking in your house, so you're already a few seconds in. All of a sudden, the intense part of the earthquake begins, the arrival of the actual earthquake, and boom, it hits. Next thing you know, within a few seconds of that, the building is collapsing. It doesn't take very long, unless you're in a building that's collapsing afterwards, right? But I'm just going to say it. This is probably the worst spot to have it because of the location in general, being rocky, mountainous, and then the buildings themselves. It's like the perfect storm for a big quake to hit at that spot. Now, I looked it up. This is the largest earthquake in 100 years for Turkey. And they've got several lists you can go check. I mean, there's everything from Wikipedia. I hate to quote Wiki, but on the earthquake list, they're pretty accurate, right? Like, they just list historical earthquakes. You can go check it, but you can go check the USGS site or check any other authority. It looks like it's the largest earthquake in 100 years. The last 7.8 was 100 years ago. I want to say it was 1930. or something. So it's, I mean, well, 90 years ago. Let's just say just roughly, largest earthquake in roughly 100 years. 95 years. It's a big one. There have been other 7s, but they were all in the 7.5, 7.4, 7.3, 7.2 range. So this is the biggest in 100. It's a big deal for the whole people in Turkey and for South Europe. This will likely interrupt gas. I know there's a big deal with natural gas in Europe, and some supplies were coming from Turkey. I'll say were coming from Turkey, at least from this port down to the south, along the coast. That's going to be pretty rough. I don't know how long that's going to be before it's fixed. But looking at the spread of quakes, we're seeing a boatload more get reported in here now. Let me just do a little quick update on this. They've just updated, and there's a boatload of more new earthquakes that have struck here. In the middle, it's now making a definitive connecting line. It looks like maybe 10 or more new 3s, 4s, and 5s just got reported all at once. It now makes a definitive connecting line, going from all the way back here, going down in an arcing line following the plate boundary, and it goes down to a 2.9 in Lebanon, which is nothing new. I already talked about that. But you can see it. It is a trajectory of earthquakes back behind it, out in front of it. And when I say out in front of it, I mean it. We're going all the way over to central Turkey and all the way over to Rhodes. Rhodes has now been hit. When did that hit? Hold on. When did Rhodes hit? Rhodes has been hit now as well, guys. Okay. We have crept with 4.7 to 5.0 level activity all the way over to Rhodes now. When did this hit? 119 UTC? All right, this hit in the last... I don't know how this just got on the feed, but 4.7 is hit at Rhodes, 5.0 is hit in central Turkey. Let's go over and show you what that is on the plate boundary, what's going on here. USGS map is not actually... Hold on. What is going on here? Let me hit refresh. Wow. Dude, hold on. What's going on? Are these from the other day or something? Hold on. No. Who's reporting these? EMSC is reporting these. Check this out, guys. Look at this. USGS is officially now omitting, not reporting, 4.7 and 5s in Europe and Turkey. Look at this. Geophone Potsdam and the Kandilini Observatory in Turkey themselves and Turkey's disaster management are all reporting these. Check it out. This is why I have multiple feeds. You cannot rely just on the USGS. They are literally omitting earthquakes now. Check it out. So, let's get the stats on this. 5.0 earthquake, 10-kilometer depth. Time on that is 1:59 UTC. It is now 4:30, so it's happened in the last 3 hours since the big one. This 4.7 happened at 1:19 UTC. So this one happened right after the big one, maybe about 30 minutes after, or 20 minutes after. So I'll say it, we're missing 2 quakes that show a connection going over to the west. I wonder why they'd do that. I wonder why they'd not show you a connection of earthquakes going from central Turkey down to Rhodes. A 4.7 and a 5 when the USGS prides itself on supposedly reporting small earthquakes. Here, look over here. 4.3 over in the middle of the ocean, over in the Mariana Islands. Or a 4.7 in the Bonin Islands. Or a 4.2 in South Japan, not even north of Taiwan, south of Japan. So, I mean, the USGS covers smaller earthquakes elsewhere. I don't know why they wouldn't cover 5s over in Turkey unless they just didn't want you to see a connection of quakes spreading out. You know they said that couldn't happen, right? Anyway, not going to dog them right now, I'm just letting you know. Professionals have said there's no spread of earthquakes, and when there's a spread like this that shows, a certain agency doesn't show it. Okay, let's save this as a video. Now, before we save it, I do want to just quickly tell my viewers, it's not just Europe that's going to see this increase spread out. We have an antipode threat on the opposite side of the planet. Whenever there's a big earthquake like this, professionals have talked about this. This isn't my take on it, although I've observed it and observed it for 10 years. About 2 years ago, professionals came out and confirmed, after studying 5,000 different earthquakes over 6.0 and greater, that within 2 to 3 days of an earthquake, 6.0 and greater, on the opposite side of the planet, there tends to be a similar-sized quake. This is from the professionals now, guys. So take it for what it is. We look, and I can confirm it though. I can tell you on the opposite side of the planet. Here, let me show this to you here. Whoops. We look through the planet, and that's called the antipode. And the antipode for the big quake is off the coast of New Zealand. So I would warn everyone from Fiji to New Zealand for a potential large earthquake to strike in the next several days. Not just 3 days. I would probably look for 5 to 7 days for a potential 7.0 plus quake to strike down here, or something very close to it. A big quake to strike on the antipode. Let's look through the planet again and just make sure we're right there. There we are. So now we're looking through the planet to the big earthquake on the opposite side. Antipode quake. Confirmed by the professionals that this happens. So I don't know if I take everything the professionals confirm as fact, but I would trust that the 5,000 quakes that they reported in the paper and that their conclusions were accurate, because we've seen it. We've seen antipode quakes back to back on both sides of the planet within a few days of each other. So if we get a new 7 down on the opposite side of the planet, down by New Zealand in the next few days, don't be too caught off guard, but down in New Zealand, anytime you get that kind of size activity, if it strikes anywhere close to land, you'll notice. Okay? We have a 4 and a 5 that struck down here. When did these hit? In the last hour and a half. Oh, man. Okay, well, it doesn't change anything. We're looking down here out off the coast, right along the coast of New Zealand to the east, just slightly. I would hope it would strike out in the ocean, not cause a tsunami. Nobody would really notice, and we could all just be done with this. The likelihood of Italy, Central Europe, and Romania being struck, I would put it at very high. And Italy, Central Europe, and Eastern Romania, all three are looking for this upper 5 to low 6 level activity. Italy at Central Italy along the Adriatic Sea. Strikes out in the ocean, out in the Adriatic, won't be that big of a deal. Be felt along the coast. Strikes on land, big deal. Damage. Same within Central Europe at Albania going into Bosnia. Strikes right off the coast of Albania, out in the Adriatic again. Okay, all good. Well, all things considered. Just some damage along the coast. Maybe a few people would feel it. Then, if it strikes on land in Central Europe, it's a big deal. Same for over in Romania. They hardly ever get 6.0 level activity in Romania. I think we can count the number of 6s on our hand for the last 10 years over in Romania, that level. So, not even. 5.0 level normally is as high as Romania goes, so to get a 6 over there will be a pretty big deal. I think all three will be hit. I don't think it's going to be one or the other. I think we're looking at Italy, Central Europe, and Eastern Europe, all three getting significant sized earthquake activity after this over the next several days as this wave spreads out across Europe. It's going to spread out from here. It already is. One more time. It already is spreading. Unfortunately, USGS, whatever you want to say, isn't showing it. But what you can see is a line of earthquakes that makes a trajectory all along the plate boundary, back behind it, out in front of it, down south of it. What's back behind it? The plate boundary. What's down south? The plate boundary. What's over to the west? The plate boundary. Now we're going on the inside line, 5.0 up here in central Turkey, 4.7 at Rhodes, and we're going down to the south on the inside line here, at 2.9 down in Lebanon. And there's nothing going across here, but I'm already going to tell you, we're connected across there by the mountain range, which is really the plate boundary. I don't know why they don't have it mapped, or they say it stops. They don't want to say two plates meet up there. I don't know. Can't make it out for the life of me, but earthquakes go across there. And now that we've got a break there, it's fairly obvious that it goes across. The plate boundary connects across. Or if it's not connected, it will connect. This is the connecting of the two. That the plate would be, there'd be a new crack that forms there and a new plate boundary that forms between the two. I would hope that doesn't happen. If it does, we'll get another large earthquake back over here as the plate boundary connects between the two. If there's not a plate boundary there. I think there's one already there, and they just don't have it mapped for some reason. But we'll never know. All I know is that the earthquakes are going across it right now. If they connect all the way across, that'll be a big deal. Okay? A bigger deal than what's already going on, just geophysically wise. to connect between plate boundaries on an unmapped plate boundary? I don't know of any other time that would be. Well, I don't know of any other spots where there are unmapped plate boundaries. Likely there are. Okay, I'm digressing, but let me now tell you guys, with the amount of people that are injured and hurt in Turkey, they're going to need help. I'm not doing any kind of fundraisers or anything like that. I'm not trying to get any money. Just you need to look into how you could possibly help them. Hey, a new forest just struck at Istanbul now. Hold on. Just south of Istanbul. Yep, we're creeping over to the west, guys. Check it out. While the USGS dragging its feet reporting the quakes, look, we got a new 4.1 that just spread now all the way across Turkey. We're going in a beeline up to the west-northwest. We're making our way right over. We're skipping around the outside edge. We might get a significant break here in Greece as this goes around the edge, but it looks like it's going straight across. It is. It really is. It's going across this way. It just hit down at Rhodes. That quake fell off the feed. There's been more than 50 earthquakes reported. But now a new 4.1 pops up here on the western side of Turkey, heading up towards our bend, where we're already getting movement up at the Craton Edge up in Romania. So clearly we're going across Turkey right now. I would hope this would escape out of here. And when it does, when it escapes out and around, you'll see the number of earthquakes at Turkey at the big break point drop off. Right now it's still going. And this doesn't count if there's any more pushes that come in from over here, where we have new deep earthquakes that are raised high off the globe today. But this is enough to deal with right now, guys. So a spread is going across Europe now. Look at that. It really is a stepping stone path that goes over to Romania now. There's only one spot missing, and that would be going right up here in the central, right here on our Adriatic Sea warning area, central Italy, Adriatic. And it just broke down here with a 4. Something's coming across now. All right. So, do we have any other earthquakes to talk about? United States, you know, I don't think we're going to get out of this either, guys. If we're moving with a 7 on one side of the planet, and people down at New Zealand have to keep watch for a 7, that means we're about to take a step up, but I think we just go a magnitude up from here. However, my last warning flopped for Central and South America. The 7.8 I was looking for that I started talking about at the start of this update struck a world away. I'm going to have to measure how far that is. I'm not going to do that now, but it looks like it's about 10,000 miles or so. So 10,000 miles off on something. But it's down to the magnitude and down to the last day of the warning. That you just, for the people who are in Turkey, this is why it's important to know what to do when a quake strikes. But in the middle of the night, and the buildings that you're provided, an emergency kit won't help you unless you are able to grab it and get out of the building. So I'm not going to tell you to be prepared in Turkey. I'm not going to tell you to have an emergency kit. It's too late for that. In the future, people can have an emergency kit, maybe in a car or somewhere where they can get out. I don't know what they're going to do about their housing situation, guys. I don't think they'll even do anything except for maybe try to reinforce current stone stack structure buildings. But to see that kind of devastation, you know, fully collapsing apartment complexes and that kind of stuff, that's just, it's horrible to see. I don't think we're done yet. I think we're going to see these 6s go across Europe. Now, the final point I'd like to make, I don't want to alarm anybody, and I don't want anybody to go run with this and just go freak out and think that, you know, I'm saying this is 100%. But with a 7.8 to 8.0 quake here, and this big old line of quakes that goes all the way back 150, 200 miles over to the east, and a line of quakes that goes down to the south, down to Jordan, or no, Lebanon, and a line of quakes that goes all the way over next to Istanbul, there may be potential. I'm not saying this is going to happen. This is not a forecast. But with this kind of activity, you can never rule out a larger earthquake to strike within a day or two at the spot or nearby the spot that's breaking. In this case, the area that's breaking is the the unmarked plate boundary going across here. It's like 150 miles across. It's not like it's just a would watch Turkey for the potential, maybe, of a new larger earthquake in the next few days if this carries on. If we don't see the flow go over to Italy and Albania and Romania, if we don't see 6s or 5.9s strike in the Adriatic Sea, strike at Albania and strike at Romania, and it's trapped here, the wave, the flow is trapped in here, we'll look for a similar size or potential larger earthquake to strike. But I'm not going to issue that warning yet. I just want to just make you aware. Let me give you an example of a past series of earthquakes that went somewhat like this and crept along several hundred miles, but it was in a subduction zone. This is not a subduction zone. This is a plate boundary, though, that we saw a big earthquake in Japan back in 2011 that did something like this. But it was not a different type of plate movement entirely, though. But there was a 7.2 and then hundreds of 4s and 5s that started to spread along the plate boundary. That's what happened in Japan. First a 7, then a spread of earthquakes like this going about 150, 200 miles. Then a big break that was in the 9.0 range. I'm not saying that's going to happen now. I'm going to watch just to see if this connects across and gets any bigger over the next few days, or if it flows out like I'm expecting to go over to the Adriatic Sea, central Italy, right here. Expecting it to go to Albania, going up into Serbia, Bosnia, Montenegro. Everybody from Albania, Macedonia, Bulgaria, Serbia, Montenegro, Bosnia. Okay, you get a 6 in here, you're all going to feel it. And then far up here on the bend of the edge of the craton, which you don't see on the USGS map here, but eastern Romania, Moldova, Ukraine. All right. That's where our arrows go. That's where we watch. It's like a flowing river. And this is a big flood on the river. I won't say it's unexpected because we were looking for a 7.8 on the planet. And we did warn Turkey for 6.0 level activity. This is 7.8. This is 1.8 higher than I'm expecting. Almost 2 magnitudes. That's 100 times more power than I'm expecting to come rolling in. By the way seismologists calculate it, it's actually like 1,000 times more powerful, maybe even 10,000 times more powerful by the way they calculate. But I mean, for me, it's a factor of 10, so I'm 100 times under what I was looking for. If I'm looking for a 6 and a 7.8 comes rolling in, it's 1.8 higher. It doesn't sound like much, but that's huge. That's a huge difference. So anyway, warn for a 7.8. 7.8 hits. Not bragging, have to tell you, that's most likely the quake we're looking for, but it's a world away. I got to figure out why. And that being said, let's go ahead and save this as a video and go ahead and put it back out over on YouTube as video number 2 for the day, which I rarely do. But there it is. So, second video for the day. A spread is going across Turkey now, going south of Istanbul with a 4.1. A 5 is struck in central Turkey. And then a huge line of quakes extending out from the big one back across this unmarked plate boundary. That red line that I showed you that's not there, it's filled in with earthquakes now. I don't know if that means a new plate boundary is forming there. If that is, that's a big deal. It would be a connecting plate boundary that newly formed. If there's a giant crack that gets reported into the ground there, like if we find reports in the next few days of a surface fissure fracture that's formed hundreds of miles going in that direction, that would be a new plate boundary forming where the USGS has nothing marked. Wild. It would be connecting between the Iranian plate, I don't even know if that's the name of the plate, from Iran on the plate boundary. It would be connecting across Turkey if that's what's happening. That would just be the biggest deal ever. 10:46 p.m. Central Time, and it is still the 5th of February here in the United States. It is the 6th internationally, so when I do this video on YouTube, I'll probably just put the 6 in the title since half the world is already over in the 6th. This is go time, seismic go time. We go through it every once in a while, a few times a year, and this is, well, now we're here. Unfortunately, there's just so many people injured, and I don't even want to show you the video. You'll be scrolling down, and you will literally see a sandwich building when there's people live moving in there. So the media reporting 10 people, that must just be one building, because I've seen 10 different people, and it's not fake footage in just one video. So, I don't know where those numbers are coming from. I don't know what the official death toll numbers and injury totals are going to be, but I got a feeling it's going to be higher than 10. We hope for none, but with collapsed buildings in the middle of the night that are apartment complexes, yeah. I'm not going to go on longer than that. You guys be safe, and I'll be back most likely reporting on some other events. Keep watch down in New Zealand too, by the way. I mean, come on, Antipode quake, big earthquake down by New Zealand. Last thing we need is for an earthquake to strike on land in New Zealand. So, hope it strikes out in the ocean, or I hope it doesn't hit at all. But these antipode quakes tend to happen regularly, so just keep on going here, guys. Sorry, it's just so much to talk about. Anyway, we'll save this, go upload it to YouTube. We can watch it back, enjoy. If you're a new viewer here, you can watch 24/7. It's free. I don't pressure anybody to come join. I've got the chat room set into emoji only. It's not to pick on anybody or censor talk. Some bad stuff happened in the chat room, unfortunately. Viewers got contacted and stuff. It was a long story. Anyway, it's set into emoji only while law enforcement is working on some stuff. You wouldn't believe what happened. I don't want to talk about it right now. But some crazy stuff happened a couple months ago, and I had to put the chat room into emoji only so nobody could talk, because literally some crazy stuff happened. That's what you get when you deal with the public, man. Anyway, all right. Much love, guys. I'll be back on. I am here. I'm going to be up all night. I'm drinking coffee now. It's 11 o'clock p.m., basically, and I'm drinking a nice, strong cup of coffee. Oh, man. I'm already sweating. All right. Peace out.